Today I have the pleasure of welcoming Rolly Kipkemoi, one of our investment analysts at Nabo Capital, and we'll be talking about Nigeria, how it has been investing in Nigeria over the last 5 years. My name is Pius Moshiro Mugo, the Managing Director of Nabo Capital, and you're watching Invest in Africa. Welcome, Rolly.
Thank you so much, Pius. It's a pleasure to finally join the show.
Thank you. So, Rolly, let's get straight to the point. How did Nigerian market perform over the last 5 years?
I can't term it as great. It had a total return of about negative 25%, which translates to an annualized return of negative 5%. So that is generally not so great.
So what really happened in Nigeria over the last 5 years?
Okay. Number one, we need to understand that Nigeria is first an oil-dependent economy. Like oil really impacts the economy in a big way. If you look at the oil price generally over the past 5 years, its price was about $112 per barrel as at the beginning of 2014. That went down by about 75% to about $28 per barrel in 2016. Since then, the price has been generally trending upwards to about $80 per barrel levels witnessed in 2018. However, as from October this year, the price has been coming down. So you can generally see that the oil price has been very volatile, and that impacts greatly on Nigeria. Number two is on the devaluation of the naira. The naira has experienced some very bad devaluations that have affected the country's currency. It stood at about 160 to the dollar in 2014, and currently it's about 363 to the dollar. So you can see the extent to which it has devalued, almost double to the dollar. Number three is on generally the earning power of the Nigerians in the country. For a very long time, the minimum wage was held at about 18,000 naira, which translates to about $50 per person per month. If you look at this period from 2010 until currently, the minimum wage hasn't been altered. However, inflation picked up at about 18.5% in 2016, and however that has generally come down to about 11%. But you see, it's been quite high, and you also witness that the currency has been volatile during this period. Same thing as oil, which many Nigerians really rely on, and therefore holding the minimum wage over that long period of time hasn't been so great for the local Nigerian person. Number four is election fevers. We witnessed a smooth election in 2015, where President Goodluck Jonathan lost the election to Muhammad Buhari, who's the current president, and there was a bit of an anxiety on how the elections would go. However, that went well, and the investors took it positive. Once again, we're seeing a period of elections coming up in February 2019 between the incumbent president Muhammad Buhari and the PDP presidential candidate, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. So once again, investors are a bit jittery, trying to wonder what direction the economy would go to, and generally how the politics of the country would affect the economy. So those are some of the points that I think really impacted Nigeria, mainly on a macro level. Oil price, currency, minimum wage, and election fevers in the country.
Okay.
Yes.
So quite a number of some negative news.
Yes.
Factors that would unsettle any investor. So looking forward, do we expect any investors, do you expect Nigeria to be a market that will be attractive to investors? Any of these factors likely to change for the positive?
Certainly, these are some of the factors that any investor looking at Nigeria should greatly consider before betting on any company. Well, from the recently concluded G20 summit, we saw the Saudi Crown Prince MBS and the Russian President agreeing to cut some of the oil output. So we certainly expect that probably the oil price will go up from the current below 70 levels to maybe generally balancing between 70 to 80. This attests also to a conversation that was held earlier in the year between various oil ministers of some of the OPEC countries, where they say that the fair value of the oil was probably between 70 to 80. So if you compare this to 3-4 years ago, in 2014, 2015, where oil prices were generally low, and where we expect it to trend towards, then it will certainly possibly be positive for the Nigerian economy, given that the government budgets its expenditure at about I think about $60, $58 there when planning for the budget. Number two, the currency has been stable this year. If you look at 2018, it's been generally stable, holding at about 363, 362, not really having some volatility witnessed in prior years. So if this trend continues, then possibly it could be some general signs of improvement, though depending on which candidate wins, given that they'll have influence, or rather they would want to control the central bank, then it could go, we wouldn't really know. But if we base this year as an example of how things will turn out, then probably it will hold, because it's been a while since we saw the Nigerian currency holding on steady for about 1 year. And then number three is that there are conversations currently happening on how to boost the minimum wage, which I had alluded to the fact that it has remained stable from about 2010, where it was increased from 6,000 naira to the current 18,000 naira, and the current conversations are potentially to increase it to about 24,000 naira or 30,000. My own estimation, I think it will range anywhere between 22,000 to about 27,000, depending on how the labor union and the government negotiate. But the president himself has actually pointed out that they probably need to do something about it, because this conversation was supposed to happen in 2015. However, because of the oil volatility situation, I think that's why it wasn't talked about. But at this point in time, where we see good prices, then it could be a good point to make those conversations take place. And finally, elections. Nigeria has witnessed so many elections in the past, so many presidents, but given how the situation is, and based on how the last elections were, and that there are only two main contenders for the seat, then possibly elections will go well. I'm hoping so. As an investor, I'm also hoping so that the elections, you really never know how elections would go. But certainly, whether Muhammadu retains his seat or Atiku becomes president, we hope it goes well. But we expect that to be a good indicator to the government and rather to the economy that if you've had peaceful elections, we expect them to hit the ground running and the economy to follow that same course.
Okay.
Yes.
So in very simple words, what would be your parting shot to investors who look at Nigeria?
The past 5 years hasn't been so great for Nigeria, but certainly it's a market that you'd highly consider for the next 5 years based on some of the pointers that I have mentioned. You can term them as risk factors for the country. If we see them to hold, or rather to trend positively, then it's a market that, if you would be missing out, it would be a very sad story for you.
Thank you, Rolly, it's been a joy to host you in this show. And I think for all investors out there, Rolly is saying, Nigeria, you cannot afford to ignore it over the next 5 years. My name is Pius Mushire Mugo, the Managing Director of Nabo Capital, and you're watching Invest in Africa.